Be grateful for the guest room, my son said, like I should thank him for surviving in the house I paid off. Would you call your own mother a burden while living in her home? I paid every tax bill. I sold my wedding bangles to fund his landscaping dream, one that collapsed in 18 months. And now, they film me on TikTok like a pet project, tagging me as their guest room star. I gave everything to this family, and when they finally called me irrelevant, I opened the old box under my bed, the one with the deed and the lien they forgot, and I remembered exactly who I was. If you've ever been made to feel disposable by your own children, stay with me. In just 5 minutes, I'll show you how I used one lien and one will to take back my home, my dignity, and a future they couldn't edit out. I sold the house beneath their feet and gave it to a woman they once paid to sweep our porch. Today, she calls me family. They call me nothing. If you're a mother who's ever been told you're too much or in the way, don't scroll. Watch. Because your story deserves a rewrite too. Before we begin, I'd love to know a little bit about you. Are you watching this from home or somewhere else? Drop a 1 in the comments if you're at home right now, 2 if you're out and about, or 3 if you're somewhere in between. Your comment means more than you think. It lets me know I'm not telling this story alone. I'll be reading every reply and sending out a little note to someone special in the next video. Ready to start this journey with me? Let's dive in. Eric said I should be grateful for the guest room. My smile hid the ache, but my hands shook, clutching a life I didn't choose. The sun beat down on Wisteria Lane, warming the checkered tablecloths spread across the patio tables. It was May 15th, 2024, and the air buzzed with the sizzle of grilled chicken and the hum of jazz from a Bluetooth speaker perched on Jessica's wicker side table. Neighbors milled about, paper plates piled with coleslaw and apple pie, their laughter mingling with the clink of iced tea glasses. I adjusted a pitcher, my fingers brushing the tablecloth I'd sewn decades ago, back when this house was mine and Mark's, not a stage for my son and his wife. Jessica, all smiles and succulents, held her phone aloft, filming for TikTok. "Meet our guest room star, Evelyn," she chirped, her voice bright as the fairy lights strung above. The neighbors chuckled, their eyes sliding to me. I forced a smile, my lips tight, but my heart sank like a stone in a well. Guest room star? I'd paid the taxes on this house for 20 years, written checks while Eric was off chasing dreams I funded. The tablecloth under my fingers felt like a tether to a life they'd rewritten. I thought, I built this, not them. A whiff of charcoal smoke curled past, and Eric's hand landed on my arm, steering me toward the grill. His flannel shirt smelled of cedar, his smirk as familiar as the patio tiles. "Mom, be grateful for the guest room," he said, his tone light, like he was commenting on the weather. "It's better than a nursing home." The words stung, sharp as a bee's barb. I nodded, my throat tight, my mind flashing to the gold bangles I'd sold for his landscaping business, a venture that folded in 18 months. I murmured, "Grateful." But my voice was hollow, a whisper lost in the jazz's croon. Was I ever their mother, or just their caretaker? Eric turned back to the grill, flipping a burger, his smirk unshaken. I stood rooted, my hands trembling around the pitcher, the cold glass grounding me. The neighbors' chatter faded, and I saw the guest house across the lawn, its shutters framing a life I hadn't chosen. Its cozy walls, scented with lavender from my sachets, held my old easel, tucked in a corner, like a forgotten dream. I'd painted once, before Mark's business and Eric's needs swallowed my colors. I carried the pitcher to the guest house, the grass soft under my sandals. Inside, the air was cool, the hum of the fridge, a quiet comfort. I set the pitcher down and unpacked groceries, my fingers brushing a stack of towels in the laundry basket. Each one bore a stitched E, a label Jessica had added, as if I were a tenant in my own home. My chest tightened, but a giggle broke the silence. Lily, my 10-year-old granddaughter, slipped through the door, her braid swinging. "Grandma, tell me about when you painted," she said, her eyes bright as summer stars. I tucked her braid behind her ear, smiling. "Another day, sunshine." Her hug warmed me, a spark in the chill of my hurt. Lily scampered back to the patio and I knelt by my bed, the floorboards creaking. Underneath, a fireproof box glinted, its lock a silent promise from when I was more than a guest. I'd hidden it there after Mark's death, papers untouched since we bought this house. My fingers grazed its edge, a deed envelope peeking out crisp and white. Something else rustled inside, a secret I hadn't sought. I pulled the box closer, my heart thudding. The jazz outside faded, and I thought of the years I'd poured into this family, taxes, bangles, dreams. They thought me a shadow, but shadows could hold weight. The picture on the counter gleamed, reflecting the guest house's dim light. I stood, my hand steadier now, Lily's hug lingering like a brushstroke. Eric's words echoed, "Be grateful," but they didn't bind me. I glanced at the box again, its contents a whisper of who I'd been. Maybe they'd remind me who I was. The patio laughter swelled, Jessica's voice calling for dessert. I straightened, my smile gone, a flicker of defiance sparking. I wasn't their guest room star. I was Evelyn, and this house still knew my name. Back at the BBQ, I poured tea, my hands trembling less. Jessica's TikTok played on loop, her caption flashing, "Family vibes." Eric flipped another burger, his smirk unchanged. The neighbors ate pie, their chatter a hum, but I felt their glances, pity tucked behind their smiles. My teacup rattled in its saucer, the clink swallowed by the jazz. Lily ran past, giggling, and grabbed my hand, her warmth a lifeline. "You're the best, Grandma," she whispered. I squeezed her hand, my heart steadying. The fireproof box waited, its secrets rustling like leaves in a storm. Eric's voice cut through, loud for the crowd. "Mom's lucky to have the guest room," he said, raising his glass. The neighbors laughed, polite but sharp. My smile faltered, the ache in my chest flaring. But Lily's hand in mine held me firm, a spark against the hurt. I set the teacup down, its clink deliberate, and met Eric's eyes. He looked away, his smirk flickering. The deed envelope's weight pressed on my mind, a promise I'd yet to claim. Love doesn't mean losing yourself, I thought, a brief truth settling in. As the sun dipped, casting shadows across the patio, I slipped back to the guest house. The lavender scent wrapped around me, familiar as a hug. I knelt again, pulling the fireproof box fully into the light. The deed envelope crinkled, but something else shifted. A folder, a note, a piece of me I'd forgotten. My breath caught. The jazz outside, a distant croon. What's hiding there? A glossy brochure promised luxury-assisted living. Jessica's note called it care, but I saw them painting me out of their lives. The guest house was quiet save for the hum of the fridge and the faint jazz drifting from the main house. The evening after the BBQ and the tulip-shaped lamp on my desk cast a soft glow, its light pooling over a coffee shop mug still warm in my hands. Lavender sachets tucked in the drawers mingled with the roasted scent of coffee, grounding me in this small space that wasn't truly mine. Outside, fireflies blinked in the backyard, their dance framed by open windows, where Jessica's wine night pulsed with laughter and clinking glasses. The deed in that fireproof box named only me. Could it hold more than just a house? I set the mug down, my fingers brushing a glossy brochure that hadn't been there this morning. It lay on the floor by the door, as if slipped under in haste. Harmony Pines, a luxury-assisted living experience. It read, the words bold against a photo of smiling seniors in a manicured garden. A sticky note clung to it, Jessica's loopy handwriting unmistakable. Self-care. My chest tightened, a sharp ache blooming. I sank onto the love seat, the brochure crinkling in my grip. Self-care? I'd missed Jessica's wedding to sit by Mark's hospital bed, his cancer stealing our days. I'd held his hand, not hers, and she'd never forgiven me. They don't know my story, I thought. The jazz's croon mocking my solitude, The laughter from the main house swelled, and a knock rattled the door. Eric stood there, his flannel shirt untucked, hands shoved in his pockets. His eyes darted to the brochure on my lap, then away, a flicker of guilt crossing his face. "Mom, we need to downsize," he said, his voice low, awkward. "For your sake." I stood, the brochure falling to the floor. "My sake or your wallet?" I snapped, my voice steadier than I felt. He mumbled about property costs, his gaze fixed on the lavender sachet by the lamp. I saw the boy who'd begged me for funds to start his landscaping business, the one I'd sold my mother's bangles for, only to watch it crumble. His guilt was there, but he hid it behind a shrug, stepping back into the night. The door clicked shut, and the fireflies seemed to pause, holding their breath. Alone, I knelt by the bed, the floorboards cool under my knees. The fireproof box slid out, its lock glinting like a secret. I turned the key, the click sharp in the quiet. Inside, the 2003 deed lay crisp, my name, Evelyn Marie Thompson, bold and alone. No Eric, no Jessica, just me. A will draft was tucked beside it, Mark's handwriting naming Eric as heir, a plan we'd made when life seemed certain. I traced the words, my fingers trembling, and a photo slipped free, fluttering to the floor. It was me. 20-something, paint-splattered smock, standing before a canvas in our old garage. My smile was wide, my eyes alive with dreams I'd shelved for Mark's business, for Eric's future. "I was an artist once," I whispered, the words catching in my throat. Did I raise them, or just their dreams? The photo felt like a spark, igniting something I'd buried. I gripped the deed, its weight anchoring me. The brochure on the floor gleamed, Jessica's note a smug dismissal of my life's work. Eric's words, downsizing for my sake, echoed, but they didn't own me. I'd written tax checks while Eric partied through college, poured my heart into this house, while Jessica built her TikTok empire. The jazz from the wine night softened, laughter fading, but my resolve grew. A match struck in the dark. This house was mine, and I wasn't done telling my story. I stood, the photo in one hand, the deed in the other. The tulip lamp flickered, casting shadows that danced like my old paintings. I set the photo on the desk, its edges curling, a reminder of who I'd been. The fireproof box lay open, and as I moved to close it, a yellowed folder caught my eye, tucked beneath the will. Lien 2011, it read, the words stark against the faded paper. My breath caught, a chill running through me. What did Eric sign? Eric called me a burden to the neighbors' faces. He tossed my photo frame in the trash, but Lily's love kept my heart from breaking. The patio on Wisteria Lane glowed under fairy lights, their twinkle soft against the evening sky. A week since the brochure had slipped under my door, and the main house buzzed with the hum of jazz and the scent of apple pie cooling on a wicker table. Neighbors sat at checkered tablecloths, forks clinking against plates of grilled chicken and potato salad. I smoothed my apron, my fingers lingering on the fabric, a remnant of the life I'd built here. That lien folder in the guest house held Eric's debt. Could it frame him out of my home? Jessica stood by the dessert table, her phone propped on a tripod, filming a TikTok. "Smile, Evelyn," she called, her voice sharp as she adjusted a succulent for the shot. I forced a smile, my lips tight, the neighbor's eyes on me like spotlights. Eric lounged nearby, his flannel shirt rolled up, boasting to a couple about renovating his house. New countertops, a fire pit. Mrs. Connolly, a neighbor with kind eyes, leaned over. "Evelyn, you must love watching them make it their own." Before I could answer, what would you do if your own child threw away a piece of your soul in front of everyone? That photo wasn't just a picture. It was proof I existed beyond being their caregiver. If you're still here, drop a 5 in the comments, because what happens next changed everything. Eric snapped, "Mom's a burden now, but we've got her covered." He grabbed a photo frame from the table, a picture of me painting, young and free, and tossed it into a trash bin by the grill. The glass cracked, the sound sharp over the jazz. Guests gasped. My fork froze midair, my chest a knot of hurt. Did I build their home or their cage? Eric's smirk didn't waver, but the neighbors' murmurs stung like bees. Jessica kept filming, her eyes flicking to me, smug control in her tilt of head. I set my fork down, the clink swallowed by the music, and stood, my legs steady despite the ache. The cicadas hummed as I crossed the lawn to the guest house, their chorus a shield against the whispers. Inside, the air was cool, the lavender sachets mingling with the faint scent of paint from an old brush on a shelf. I sank onto the love seat, my hands trembling, my mind replaying the frame's crack. I'd given up painting for Eric's education, sold my mother's bangles for his business, written tax checks while he chased dreams that failed. My heart felt raw, scraped by his words. A corkboard on the wall held Lily's drawings, their crayon lines a burst of color. I unpinned one. "I love you, Grandma," scrawled in her uneven hand. My eyes welled, the paper crinkling in my grip. "I'm more than this," I thought, the hurt sharpening into something hotter, fiercer. The frame Eric tossed lay in a bin outside, its glass cracked but intact, a mirror of his disregard, a hint of debts he couldn't bury. I wasn't a burden. I was the foundation he'd forgotten. The guest house door creaked, and Lily slipped in, her braids swinging, her sneakers soft on the floorboards. "Grandma, you're not a burden," she said, her voice fierce, her eyes wide. She threw her arms around me, her warmth a spark in my chest. "Tell me about your paintings." I smiled, tucking her braid behind her ear. "They were my stories, sunshine," I said, my voice steady despite the pain. I glanced at the fireproof box under the bed, the lien folder's weight pressing on my mind. I'll tell my story again. Lily's hug lingered, her love a fire kindling my resolve. I wasn't done yet. I stood, guiding Lily back to the patio, her hand small in mine. The jazz played on, softer now, the neighbors' chatter a low hum. Jessica packed her tripod, her smirk gone, her eyes avoiding mine. Eric flipped a burger, his shoulders tense, as if he felt my gaze. I sat, my hand on the lien folder in my apron pocket, its edges sharp against my palm. The hurt burned, but Lily's love fanned it into anger, a vow taking shape. Love doesn't mean silence, I thought, a truth settling like ash. I wasn't their burden, I was their reckoning. As the stars emerged, I slipped back to the guest house, the cicadas hum a steady pulse. The corkboard glowed under the lamp, Lily's drawing pinned anew. I knelt by the bed, pulling the fireproof box into the light. The deed lay there, my name bold, but I reached for the lien folder, its yellowed paper, heavy. I opened it, my breath catching. $48,000, Eric's signature, unpaid. What power is this? Jessica claimed my grandmother's walnut chair as ours on TikTok. Martha called me a ghost in my own house, and I felt it. The guest house was still, the lace curtains filtering the morning light. A coffee shop mug steamed on my desk, its roasted scent blending with the lavender sachets tucked in my drawers. Outside, Wisteria Lane hummed, birds chirped, lawnmowers buzzed, a suburban symphony under the summer sun. 2 weeks had passed since Eric's insult, and the lien folder's weight lingered in my mind. Could it sit me back at the head of my table? I crossed the lawn to the main house, the grass warm under my sandals. The sunroom door was ajar, soft jazz spilling from a radio, mingling with the rustle of succulents Jessica had arranged like trophies. There, in the corner, stood my grandmother's walnut chair, its carved arms draped with trendy pillows in teal and coral, my fists clenched, my breath catching. That chair had held my grandmother as she taught me to paint, her hands guiding mine across a canvas. I'd kept it in the guest house, a piece of my story until now. Jessica's phone sat on a tripod, her latest TikTok paused on the screen. Our family heirloom. The caption crowed, the chair front and center. My heart pounded, a raw ache flaring. That's my story, not hers, I thought, the jazz's croon mocking my erasure. I turned away, the sunroom's brightness blinding, and retreated to the guest house. The door creaked as Martha stepped in, her silver hair catching the light, a coffee mug in her hand. "Ev, you look like you've seen a ghost," she said, her voice sharp but warm. She sank onto the love seat, sipping her drink, and I spilled it all. Eric's burden insult, the cracked frame, Jessica's theft of the chair. Martha's eyes narrowed. "You're a ghost in your own house, Ev. Fight back." She leaned forward, her mug clinking on the desk. "My son called me irrelevant, cut me out after I gave him everything. Don't let them do that to you." Her voice cracked, her estrangement a mirror to my pain. I nodded, my throat tight, the hurt sharpening into anger. Martha pointed to the fireproof box under my bed. "Mark left you power, Ev. Use it." I knelt, the floorboards cool, and pulled the box into the light. The lien folder lay there, its $48,000 debt a weight in my hands, but I hesitated, my fingers grazing a note tucked inside. Mark's handwriting was steady. "Will is your shield." I unfolded it, my breath hitching. He'd written it before his cancer, knowing I'd need strength. The will draft named Eric Eyre, a plan I'd once trusted. My anger surged, a fire kindling. I opened my laptop, the coffee shop mug warm against my palm, and typed an email to a lawyer. "I want to sell my house and change my will." I hit send, my voice a murmur in the quiet. I'm no ghost. Did I give them my past or let them steal it? The jazz from the sunroom faded, birdsong filling the silence. I stood, the note in my hand, Mark's words a spark against the ache. Jessica's TikTok played in my mind, her smug claim a theft of my heritage. Eric's debt loomed, a secret he thought buried, but I held the key. The guest house felt smaller now, its walls pressing in, but my resolve grew, a canvas taking shape. I wasn't their guest. I was their foundation, and foundations could shift. The laptop pinged, the lawyer's reply glowing, "Meet tomorrow to discuss sale, Will." I froze, my pulse quickening, the mug's warmth grounding me. A text from Jessica flashed on my phone. "Dinner next week?" Her words felt like a trap, her confidence a mask I'd seen through. The lien folder lay open, Eric's signature bold, a debt unpaid. I closed the laptop, the birds outside a steady chorus. What's she scheming? Eric owed me $48,000, signed in his own hand. I wasn't a guest, I held their future. The guest house desk was a mess of papers, the afternoon light slanting through the lace curtains. A slice of apple pie from the farmer's market sat uneaten, its cinnamon scent fading as cicadas hummed outside, their chorus thick in the summer heat. Across the lawn, the main house buzzed with Jessica's brunch, jazz drifting faintly through open windows, a soft croon that couldn't soothe the fire in my chest. Mark's note had promised a shield. Could the lien and will redraw my life's lines? I sat, the lien folder open before me, its yellowed pages heavy with truth. The 2011 agreement was stark. $48,000 loaned to Eric for his landscaping business, secured against this house, unpaid. My jaw tightened, the words pulling me back to that winter. Eric had stood in our kitchen, his eyes desperate, his voice cracking. "Mom, I'll pay you back, I swear," he'd begged, his dream of eco-friendly yards crumbling under debt. Mark, his brow furrowed, had insisted, "Lean it, Evie. Protect us." I'd trusted Eric's promise, my heart soft for my boy, but Mark's wisdom had been my anchor. I'd signed the lien, never dreaming I'd need it. Now, the betrayal burned, a wound reopened. Did I fund his dreams or my own betrayal? I pushed the folder aside, my hands trembling, and opened my laptop. The farmer's market pie sat forgotten, its plate catching the light. Online, I searched the county records, my fingers flying. The lien was valid, enforceable. The house's value doubled since we'd bought it. My name, Evelyn Marie Thompson, stood alone on the deed, no trace of Eric or Jessica. I leaned back, my breath sharp, the jazz from the brunch a distant hum. I wasn't their tenant. I was their landlord, and they'd forgotten. I dialed Armen, the lawyer I'd emailed yesterday, and met him at the coffee shop down the street. The air smelled of espresso and fresh bread, the chatter of patrons a low buzz. "You want to sell off market and revise your will?" he asked, his pen poised. I nodded, my voice firm. "Yes, I'm in control." He smiled. "Good." The words settled like a weight lifted, my anger now a plan. Back in the guest house, the cicadas' hum filled the silence. The papers on my desk, a map of my counterstrike. I pulled Mark's note from the lien folder, its words, steady. "Will is your shield." The will draft lay beside it. Eric's name bold as air, a future I'd once imagined. I flashed back to Mark's final months, his voice weak but clear. "You stopped painting for me, Evie," he'd said, regret in his eyes. "Don't stop being you." I'd given up my art for his business, for Eric's dreams, but Mark had seen the cost. My pen hovered over the will, its tip glinting like a blade. I could erase Eric, cut the ties he'd frayed with his greed. My anger sharpened, a fire honed to steel, my resolve ironclad. The coffee shop's warmth lingered in my hands, but the guest house felt alive with possibility. I stood, pacing, the floorboards creaking under my sandals. The jazz from the brunch had stopped, the main house quiet now, but the cicadas sang on, their rhythm a pulse of summer. I glanced at the lien, Eric's signature a mark of his deceit. He'd hidden this debt, built his life on my sacrifices, my art, my bangles, my taxes. The will draft glared, a promise I could break. I wasn't a guest in their story. I was the author, and this chapter was mine to write. My laptop pinged, Armen's email lighting the screen. "Lien's enforceable. Sale and will revision are straightforward. Meet tomorrow." I froze, my pulse quickening, the words a spark to my resolve. I closed the laptop, the guest house dimming as the sun dipped low. The apple pie slice sat untouched, its sweetness lost to the heat. I stepped to the window, the cicadas hum, a steady beat, and saw a shadow move outside, a flicker against the lawn. My breath caught, my hand tightening on the lien folder. Someone's watching. Who's there? I sold the house to a woman who swept our porch. Jessica's hesitation on her call showed cracks, but my will was set. The main house on Wisteria Lane smelled of lavender spray, a cloying sweetness that clung to the air. It was midday, a week since I'd uncovered Eric's debt, and a slow dancing tune hummed from the radio, its melodies soft against the summer heat. I stood in the kitchen, the checkered floor cool under my sandals, as Carla walked through, her eyes wide with awe. The lien locked Eric out. The will cut him free. What would happen when they faced the truth? Carla, who'd once swept this porch for a few dollars an hour, paused by the sunroom, her curls catching the light. "This house deserves love," she said, her voice quiet but sure. I nodded, my anger precise, a blade honed by Eric's betrayal and Jessica's theft. Eric and Jessica were off at a wine weekend, their absence my chance. "It's yours," I said, boxing Eric's monogrammed mugs, their clink a farewell to his claim. I tucked away Jessica's live laugh love sign, its letters mocking her TikTok empire. "It's mine to give," I thought, the lavender spray sharp in my nose. Carla's dream of stability outshone their greed, and I'd chosen her. The radio's tune swayed, a slow dance I'd no longer follow. By evening, I sat in the guest house, the desk lit by a single lamp, papers neatly stacked. The air was cooler now, the cicadas' hum fading as a moving truck idled on the quiet street, its engine a low rumble. I opened the will draft, Eric's name crossed out, and signed the new version, my pen steady. I formed Rosenthal Trust LLC, reclaiming my maiden name, a nod to the artist I'd been. Martha knocked, her silver hair glinting, an iced tea pitcher in her hands. "Ev, you're back," she said, toasting with a glass, her grin wide. I smiled, the glass cold against my palm. "I never left." Her own estrangement, her son's dismissal, fueled her pride in me. The slow dancing tune from the main house faded, but my resolve burned, a fire no one could douse. I slipped into the main house's laundry room, the dryer's hum masking my steps. I hid a small recorder behind a detergent bottle, its red light blinking like a heartbeat. Back in the guest house, I waited, the lamp's glow steady. The recorder caught Jessica's call that night, her voice filtering through static. "Mom's a burden. We need options." She paused, her tone softening. "Maybe we're harsh." My heart hardened, the hesitation a crack in her facade, but not enough to sway me. Her words belittled my sacrifices, my art, my bangles, my taxes, enraging me as I clutched the sale contract, now signed. I was done being erased, my anger a forge shaping my future. Did I lose my home or find my power? The guest house felt alive, its walls witnesses to my rebirth. I stood, pacing, the floorboards creaking, the papers on my desk a map of my victory. Jessica's call echoed, her hesitation a faint echo of guilt. But I saw her TikTok posts, her smug control over my grandmother's chair. Eric's debt, his hidden $48,000, was a chain I'd turn against him. Martha's toast lingered, her loyalty a spark in my chest, her own loss mirroring mine. I wasn't their guest, I was their reckoning, and this house would tell my story. My phone buzzed, Jessica's text lighting the screen. "Dinner tomorrow, let's talk family." I stared at it, my pulse quickening, the sale contract glowing on my laptop. The moving truck's rumble had stopped, Wisteria Lane silent under the stars. Jessica's invitation felt like a trap, her hesitation on the call too little, too late. The will, the lien, the sale, they were my truth, and their time was running out. I set the phone down, the lamp's light steady, my resolve a canvas painted bold. How soon would they know? Eric smashed my old painting, pushed me aside. Lily's bracelet caught the light, and Martha's fire kept me burning. The guest house was dim, the desk lamp flickering like a heartbeat in the late afternoon. A faint scent of grilled chicken drifted from a neighbor's BBQ, mingling with the lavender sachets in my drawers. Outside, Wisteria Lane pulsed with summer heat, cicadas humming, the main house patio aglow with fairy lights. Jazz hummed from a speaker, soft but insistent, as guests gathered for another of Jessica's gatherings. Jessica's recorded words, "Mom's a burden," stung, but the lien and will would rewrite their story. What was their next move? I sat at the desk, the recorder in my hands, its red light a steady glow. I played the tape for Martha, her silver hair catching the lamplight as she leaned forward. Jessica's voice crackled through, "Mom's a burden. We need options." Martha slammed her coffee mug down, the clink sharp. "They're stealing your soul, Ev," she snapped, her eyes fierce. She leaned back, her voice softening. "My son called me irrelevant. Cut me out after I gave him everything. Don't let them do you like that." Her estrangement mirrored my pain, her words a spark to my anger. I nodded, my eyes blazing. "I'm not irrelevant," I said, my voice sharp but steady, the recorder heavy in my palm. I crossed the lawn to the patio, the grass warm under my sandals, the fairy lights twinkling like stars. Guests sipped iced tea, their chatter a low hum over the jazz. Eric stood by the grill, his flannel shirt rolled up, his smirk fixed as he flipped burgers. I stepped forward, the recorder in my pocket, my heart pounding. "I heard Jessica's call, Eric," I said, my voice cutting through the music. "I'm no burden." He scoffed, his eyes narrowing. "You don't get how things work now, Mom." What if your own child destroyed the last thing that made you feel like you, just to prove you were nothing? That painting held every piece of me they tried to erase. If you're still with me, drop a 6 in the comments, because what happened next turned pain into power. He pushed me aside, not hard but dismissive, his hand brushing my shoulder. Then he grabbed my old painting, a canvas of a sunset I'd hung in the guest house, and smashed it against the patio railing. The wood splintered, the canvas tearing, the crack echoing. Guests gasped, their glasses clinking as they froze. My heart cracked, the painting's colors a memory of my sacrificed art, my bangles sold for his dreams. I stood rooted, my chest raw, the cicadas' hum swallowing the silence. Eric's smirk faltered, a flicker of guilt in his eyes, a ghost of the boy who'd begged for my help in 2011. But he turned away, flipping another burger, his arrogance a shield. I walked back to the guest house, the patio lights blurring, my hands trembling. Inside, the air was cool, the lamps flicker, steadying me. A corkboard held Lily's drawings, their crayon lines a burst of hope. I sank onto the love seat, my fingers brushing the broken frame from last month, Eric's first dismissal. The painting's ruin burned, a wound deeper than words. The door creaked, and Lily slipped in, her braids swinging, her sneakers soft on the floorboards. "Grandma, you're my hero," she said, her eyes wide, holding out a handmade bracelet of paint-splattered beads. The beads caught the light, a symbol of my lost art, a spark to my resolve. I hugged her, tears held back, her warmth a fire in my chest. "Thank you, sunshine," I whispered, my voice steady. Martha, still there, leaned forward, her mug empty. "The lien, Ev." "Hit them," she urged, her voice low. I gripped the recorder, nodding. I'm done being silent. Did I raise a son or a thief of my dreams? The bracelet rested on my wrist, its beads cool against my skin. Lily's love, a tether to my strength. I stood, the guest house alive with my resolve, the lien folder on the desk a weapon I'd wield. Eric's push, his destruction, Jessica's words. They'd thought me erased, but I was their foundation, and foundations could quake. Martha's fire, her own loss fueled me, a mirror to my fight. I wasn't their burden. I was their reckoning, and this house would tell my story. A paper slipped from the desk, a certified mail receipt for the sale papers, its date bold. I froze, my pulse quickening, the lamp's light casting shadows. Outside, the cicadas hummed, but a darker shape moved by the window, Eric's shadow, lingering, watching. My breath caught, the receipt in my hand, the jazz fading. Is he coming for me? I mailed their eviction notice, my lien in bold. Eric screamed I was nothing, but his eyes betrayed his fear. The guest house desk was buried under papers, the morning light slicing through the lace curtains. A coffee shop latte sat cooling, its foam collapsing as the summer sun climbed over Wisteria Lane. Outside, the main house mailbox gleamed, a silent sentinel, while the farmer's market down the street hummed with chatter, the scent of apple pie wafting on the breeze. The sale to Carla was sealed, the will rewritten. Could their words stop what I'd started? Martha leaned against the love seat, her silver hair catching the light, a mug of coffee in her hand. "Ev, you're a force," she said, her grin wide as we reviewed the sale papers. Armin's email glowed on my laptop. Carla's wire had cleared, escrow closing soon. I spread the 30-day notice to vacate across the desk, the lien's $48,000 bold, a hint of the will change tucked in a footnote. My pen hovered, then signed, the ink a steady line. "It's done," I said, my voice carrying quiet power, the latte forgotten. Martha raised her mug, toasting. "They'll feel this, Ev." Her pride, rooted in her own estrangement from her son, fueled my resolve, a fire no one could douse. I wasn't their guest, I was their reckoning, and this house would bear my name. I crossed the lawn to the main house, the grass warm under my sandals, the summer heat pressing against my skin. The kitchen door was open, the checkered floor cool, a faint jazz tune drifting from the radio. Eric stood by the counter, his flannel shirt untucked, slicing tomatoes for a salad. His smirk faltered as I stepped in, the notice folded in my hand. "You broke my painting, Eric," I said, my voice cutting through the music. "Called me a burden." He slammed the knife down, the clink sharp. "You're nothing now, Mom," he yelled, his face red. This is my house." His eyes flickered, a shadow of guilt passing through, a memory of his old voicemail. "I owe you everything." I stepped closer, the notice rustling. "You owe me $48,000, I said, my gaze steady. His jaw tightened, but he turned away, the knife glinting. I left, head high, the jazz fading, my resolve like iron. Did I build their world or my own prison? The farmer's market was a short walk, its stalls bright with strawberries and homemade jams, the air thick with pie and chatter. I clutched the notice, its envelope crisp, and stepped into the post office, a bell jingling above the door. "Certified mail," I told the clerk, my voice calm, the weight of the lien grounding me. As I turned to leave, I spotted Jessica at a stall, her phone pressed to her ear, her voice frantic. "We'll lose it all," she said, her eyes darting. She saw me, her words faltering, her gaze softening, a crack in her smug facade. I turned away, the notice sent, my sandals clicking on the pavement. The market's hum followed me, but my heart was steady, a canvas painted bold. Back in the guest house, the papers on my desk were neat, the latte cold, its scent mingling with lavender. I sat, the lamp's glow steady, Martha's toast echoing in my mind, Eric's scream, "You're nothing," and he burned, a wound that fueled my fire. His guilt, that flicker in his eyes, was too late, his arrogance a mask I'd shattered. Jessica's hesitation at the market hinted at guilt, but her recorded words, "Mom's a burden," still stung, a betrayal I'd answered with the sale. Martha's loyalty, her own loss was my strength, a mirror to my fight. I wasn't their shadow, I was their sun, and this house would set with my name. I stood, pacing, the floorboards creaking, the cicadas hum a pulse outside. The notice was a bomb, its fuse lit, and Eric's denial in the kitchen was a crack in his armor. I thought of Lily's bracelet, its paint-splattered beads a spark of my art, my resolve to reclaim my worth. The will, the lien, the sale. They were my truth, a story I'd written in ink and anger. The farmer's market's chatter faded, Wisteria Lane quiet under the sun, but my heart raced, a fire unquenched. My phone buzzed, Jessica's text lighting the screen. "Dinner tonight." I stared, my pulse quickening, the sale contract tucked in my desk drawer, its pages a silent victory. Carla's move-in was tomorrow, the notice now in their hands. Jessica's face at the market, ashen, hesitant, flashed in my mind, her text a plea or a trap. I set the phone down, the lamp's light steady, the receipt for the certified mail a weight in my hand. The mailbox outside gleamed, Jessica pulling the notice, her world unraveling. What breaks first? I laid out the lien, my new will, and a lawyer's letter. Eric justified his greed, but Jessica's tears told me I'd won. The main house dining room on Wisteria Lane was a stage, its burgundy napkins folded sharp, candles flickering like wary eyes. Evening, the summer breeze rustling the guest house curtains across the lawn, my boxes packed, the space bare. An apple pie sat untouched on the sideboard, its cinnamon scent lost to the low hum of jazz from a speaker. The notice had landed, my lien bold, and now Jessica's dinner was their last stand. Carla's keys would lock them out, but Mia's home would carry my name. Could I leave this fight behind? Jessica poured wine, her smile forced, her hands trembling as she set the bottle down. "Let's save the house, Evelyn," she said, her voice thin, her eyes darting to Eric. He leaned forward, his flannel shirt creased, his smirk gone. "It's our home, Mom," he pleaded, his tone softer than yesterday's rage. I sipped water, the glass cool against my palm, my heart steady. They don't own me, I thought. The candles glow, casting shadows on the checkered tablecloth I'd sewn years ago. Their desperation was a mask, their words too late to sway me. I set the glass down, the clink deliberate, my voice steady as steel. The jazz crooned, a slow lament for their crumbling empire. I pulled a folder from my bag, its edges crisp, and laid it on the table. The 2011 lien, $48,000 unpaid, stared up, Eric's signature bold. Beside it, a new will, his name erased, and a lawyer's letter confirming the change, its seal glinting. "You owe me $48,000, Eric," I said, my gaze locked on his. "I cut you from my will. You said I'm nothing. I believed you." His jaw dropped, his face paling, a shocked gasp escaping. Jessica's wine glass shook, her eyes wide. Eric slammed his fist, the table rattling. "I deserve this house for putting up with you?" he roared, his voice cracking, his arrogance crumbling. Jessica gasped, tears spilling, her voice a whisper. "I was wrong, Evelyn." Her eyes begged, a crack in her facade, but Eric's justification burned, a dismissal of my art, my bangles, my taxes. Did I lose my family or find my truth? The candles flickered, the jazz fading as I stood, the folder in my hand. "I rewrote my legacy," I said, my words a hammer, my resolve unyielding. Jessica's tears fell, her hands clutching the napkin, her misunderstanding, born when I missed her wedding for Mark's cancer, melting into remorse. Eric's silence cut deeper, his eyes haunted, a ghost of the boy who'd begged for my help. Martha's advice echoed, her voice from yesterday urging me to hit them, her own estrangement a fire that fueled my triumph. I wasn't their burden. I was their son, and this house would set with my name. A car's rumble broke the silence, headlights flashing through the dining room window. Carla's sedan pulled into the driveway, its engine soft against the cicada's hum. Jessica's head snapped up, her face ashen. Eric froze, his hands gripping the table. I smiled, the folder a weight I'd shed. "Your new landlord's here," I said, my voice calm, the candle's glow steady. The lawyer's letter had shocked them, its confirmation of the will change a twist they hadn't seen, tying to the lien's truth. The jazz stopped, the room silent save for Jessica's soft sob, Eric's stunned breath. I stepped toward the door, the checkered floor cool under my sandals, the apple pie's scent a faint memory. Jessica's eyes followed me, begging forgiveness, a shift I'd consider later. Eric's silence was a wound, his greed exposed, his guilt a shadow of the boy I'd raised. Carla's gratitude, her respect for this house, outshone their betrayal, and Mia's home would carry my legacy forward. The guest house waited, its bare walls a canvas I'd painted bold, my boxes packed for a new life. The dining room door opened, the summer breeze warm, carrying the scent of jasmine from the porch. Carla stepped forward, her keys jingling, her curls catching the light. Jessica's eyes widened, her voice a whisper. "Who's that?" I turned, my smile steady, the folder in my hand a symbol of my triumph. The candles flickered, their light fading, and I thought of Lily's bracelet, Martha's fire, my own art reborn. What happens when she walks in? Carla took my house's keys, and Eric called me a burden again. Jessica's note begged forgiveness, and I almost believed her. The main house porch on Wisteria Lane bloomed with jasmine pots, their scent mingling with coffee shop aromas carried by a summer breeze. Morning. The sun warm on my face as I stood by the railing, my guest house boxes packed across the lawn. A moving truck idled, its rumble soft against the tinkling wind chimes. Neighbors peeked from windows, their curtains twitching. The lien and will were my justice, but Mia's home would paint my future. Could I leave this pain behind? Carla stepped from her sedan, her curls bouncing, her smile wide. She shook my hand, her grip firm. "I'll love this house, Evelyn," she said, her voice soft with awe. The jasmine swayed, the coffee shop scent grounding me. Jessica stormed out, her sandals slapping the porch. "This is our home," she cried, her eyes wild, her hair slipping from its bun. I faced her, my voice calm. My taxes paid it, my lien claimed it. The words landed like stones, my resolve a steady flame. Carla's keys glinted, a symbol of my triumph, the house no longer theirs. Eric emerged, his flannel shirt rumpled, his face red. "You're a burden, Mom," he snapped, his voice loud, neighbors gasping behind their screens. The insult stung, a final jab at my sacrifices, my art, my bangles, my years of tax checks. I stepped forward, my gaze steady. "I sold to Carla, enforced the $48,000 lien, and cut you from my will," I said, my voice carrying quiet victory. The crowd hushed, wind chimes clinking. Carla handed me a basket of lemon muffins, their citrus scent sharp, a thank you that warmed my chest. Jessica's hand trembled, slipping a handwritten note into my pocket. "I'm sorry, Evelyn." I paused, my heart softening, her remorse a crack in her facade, born from missing her wedding for Mark's illness. Did I give them a home, or my heart's weight? Lily ran from the lawn, her braid swinging, her sneakers thudding. "You're my hero, Grandma," she cried, hugging me tight, her warmth a spark of love. I knelt, her eyes bright, her loyalty a beacon through my pain. I turned to Carla, the basket in my hands. "Make this house a home," I said, my voice serene. Jessica lingered, her nod hopeful, her eyes wet. Eric stood silent, his bitterness a hollow shell, his guilt overwhelming, a shadow of the boy who'd promised to repay me. I walked to the guest house, head high, the moving truck's rumble fading, my liberation dawning. I'm free, I thought, the jasmine scent a new beginning. The guest house was bare, its floorboards creaking under my sandals, the wind chimes outside a soft chorus. I set the muffin basket on the desk, Jessica's note crinkling in my pocket, a step toward reconciliation I'd weigh later. Eric's insult echoed, but his defeat was clear, his entitlement shattered by my truth. Lily's hug lingered, her love reinforcing my maternal strength, a canvas painted bold. Martha's voice, her encouragement from days ago, echoed, her estrangement a mirror to my fight. Carla's gratitude, her respect for this house, outshone their greed, a legacy I'd chosen. I sat. The lamp's glow dim, the coffee shop scent clinging to my hands, the notice, the lien, the will. They were my justice, a story I'd written in ink and resolve. Jessica's note was a whisper of hope, her misunderstanding thawing, but Eric's silence was a severance, his desperation too late. I wasn't their burden, I was their son, and this house had set with my name. The wind chimes sang, a melody of freedom, my heart steady, my future a blank page. I stepped outside, the moving truck waiting, my boxes ready for a new life. I drove to Haven Steps, a key for Mia in my pocket, its brass cool against my fingers. My phone buzzed, Eric's voicemail waiting, unopened, his voice a ghost I'd leave behind. The jasmine faded, Wisteria Lane shrinking in my rear view, the wind chimes a final note. Will I ever listen? I gave Mia my guest house, and she named her baby Eve for me. Eric called again, but Jessica's visit lit a spark of hope. The Haven Steps shelter was quiet, the afternoon sun warming the guest house's porch. Fresh basil swayed by the window, its scent mingling with farmers' market aromas drifting from a nearby stall. A summer breeze rustled, carrying coffee shop chatter, while Wisteria Lane's main house, now Carla's, faded in the distance. I stood by the door, a brass key in my hand, its blue ribbon soft against my fingers. Lily's drawing was my anchor, but Mia's Eve painted a new beginning. Could I rebuild family from these ashes? Mia opened the door, her eyes wide, her arms cradling a tiny bundle. I held out the key, its ribbon catching the light. "This is yours now," I said, my voice soft but firm. Mia's breath hitched, tears spilling. "No one's given me a home," she sobbed, her voice cracking. "Her name's Eve. For you." My eyes stung, my chest tight with love. This is family, I thought, the basil's scent grounding me. Mia's gratitude, her resilience after years of struggle, mirrored my own, a legacy I'd chosen. I hugged her, the baby's warmth a spark of hope, my liberation complete. Back at Wisteria Lane, I stood on Carla's porch, the main house's jasmine pots blooming bold. I left a brass house key and a letter on the wicker table. Make it yours. The guest house door creaked behind me, and Jessica stepped out, her eyes red, her hair loose. "I was wrong, Evelyn," she said, her voice earnest. "Can we try again?" Her guilt, born from my absence at her wedding for Mark's illness, shone through, her facade shed. I nodded, my heart cautious. Slowly. My phone buzzed, Eric's call flashing, his voicemail a plea I ignored. His dismissal, his burden insults, enraged me still. But Jessica's sincerity softened the wound, a step toward reconciliation. Inside the guest house, I packed the last box, the floorboards creaking, the coffee shop scent clinging to my hands. I framed Lily's "You're My Hero" drawing, its crayon lines glowing under the lamp. My reflection in the glass showed a woman free, my voice steady, my spirit reborn. I didn't lose family, I found myself, I thought. Mia's basil growing outside, a new start. Eric's call, unanswered, was a severance. His desperation too late, his selfishness ended. Jessica's visit, Lily's love, Mia's Eve, they were my legacy, a canvas painted bold. Did I rebuild my home or my spirit? The guest house was bare, its walls witnesses to my triumph. I sat, the lamp dim, the farmer's market hum faint. Jessica's note from yesterday crinkled in my pocket, her remorse a bridge I'd cross slowly. Eric's voicemail, a futile plea, was a ghost I'd left behind, his guilt a shadow of the boy I'd raised. Lily's drawing, Martha's fire, Carla's gratitude, they fueled me, a fire of maternal love unquenched. I wasn't their burden, I was their son, and this home had set with my name. I stepped outside, the breeze warm, the basil scent a promise. My phone pinged, a news alert flashing, "Woman's gift sparks housing justice." I opened my email, a housing justice summit invite glowing, "Share your story." My pulse quickened, the coffee shop chatter a distant hum, Wisteria Lane a memory fading. I clutched Mia's key, its ribbon soft, my liberation a masterpiece. Will I share my story? Eric's voicemails faded, but Lily's drawing lit my condo. Jasmine tea tasted like peace. My canvas finally mine. The evening wrapped my condo in a soft glow, its corner unit cozy above a community garden blooming with lavender and kale. Wind chimes tinkled outside, their melody mingling with slow-dancing music drifting from a neighbor's window. A corkboard held Haven Steps photos, faces of women I'd mentored, their smiles a testament to my reclaimed voice. Mia's Eve and Jessica's hope were my colors. Wisteria Lane, a sketch I'd outgrown. I unpacked a box, my fingers brushing Lily's drawing, its crayon lines bold. "You're my hero, Grandma." I framed it, setting it on the windowsill, the glass catching the dusk's light. My phone buzzed, Jessica's text glowing. "Coffee soon?" I smiled, open but cautious, her remorse a bridge we'd build slowly, rooted in her misunderstanding from my absence at her wedding. Eric's voicemails piled up, unanswered, his pleas drowned by the wind chimes, his burden insults, his greed had severed our tie, his desperation a ghost I'd left behind. I sipped jasmine tea, its warmth spreading, my heart steady. At Haven Steps that morning, I'd sat with women sharing my story of Wisteria Lane, liens, wills, a house reclaimed. Their eyes shone, their nods a chorus of strength. A viral headline flashed on my phone. "Woman's gift inspires justice." My donation to Mia sparking change. An email from the Housing Justice Summit landed, inviting me to speak, my voice now a beacon. I leaned back, the corkboard's photos a tapestry of hope, my mentorship a legacy painted bold. Eric's dismissal, his unanswered calls, satisfied my indignation. But Jessica, Lily, and Mia were my focus, a family redefined. On my porch, I cradled the teacup, the garden's lavender swaying below. Mia's Eve, named for me, danced in my heart, her mother's gratitude sealing my legacy. I painted myself, I whispered, the slow dancing music softening the dusk. Lily's drawing, Jessica's text, Mia's basil. They were my masterpiece, a canvas of love and liberation. Eric's voicemails, his futile regret, were a shadow I'd outrun. His entitlement ended. Did I lose a son or paint a new world? The wind chimes sang, their notes a promise of peace. My laptop glowed, the summit email open, its words a spark. Your story inspires. I set the teacup down, its clink gentle, and picked up a pen. The garden bloomed, kale leaves rustling, a world I'd shaped. I wasn't their burden, I was their son, and this life was my art. I wrote, I'm ready, the pen steady, the music a soft hum. What's my next stroke? As I sat in the guest house, the sale contract glowing on my screen, Jessica's hesitant words, maybe were harsh, echoed, a faint crack in the wall they'd built around me. I'd sold my home to Carla, rewritten my will, and held Eric's $48,000 debt in my hands, reclaiming my worth from their dismissal. In life, family bonds can fray when love is taken for granted, but forgiveness begins with seeing each other's truth. Like apple pie shared at a summer BBQ, our stories deserve to be savored, not erased. My journey taught me that maternal love endures, even when it must set boundaries to shine. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts in the comments or join us for the next tale. Your voice matters.